Hey everyone, and welcome to your very own deep dive. We're going to be jumping into a wild mix of stories today. Everything from like internet debates and space junk to some surprising health insights and even a dash of romance. Get ready, it's going to be a ride.
You know, it's so interesting to me how all these seemingly random topics we have today really connect to some big ideas, some big trends that are happening. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, you know, of like the zeitgeist.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Let's start with this whole Waffle House thing. We have this TikToker who thinks they've discovered a brand new menu item. It's a cheeseburger hash brown bowl. But is it really new, or is it just like a clever take on something that's been around forever?
Well, it's so fascinating to me how social media can completely reshape our perception of things. Even something as familiar as, you know, a Waffle House menu, right? This reminds me of the whole cronut craze a few years back. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It just goes to show that really simple food combinations, I mean, they can become cultural phenomenons through social sharing and a bit of clever branding, right? It's amazing. Have you ever seen like a simple food idea blow up online?
Oh, totally. I've definitely fallen for a few of those food trends myself. And sometimes it's all about the presentation. Okay, so let's blast off from greasy spoons to the vastness of space for a second. Apparently, astronomers recently mistook Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster, you know, the one he launched into space way back in 2018, for a new asteroid.
You know, to be fair, it's getting harder and harder to track everything that's out there. There's so much stuff in orbit these days, you know, human-made stuff. This incident really highlights the growing problem of space debris. And it makes you think, you know, what exactly is space debris and why should we even care about it?
That's a great question. I mean, space is huge, right? How much junk could there really be up there?
More than you might think. We're talking about everything from defunct satellites to tiny paint chips. Basically, any human-made object that's no longer serving a purpose. The problem is that all this debris, it can collide with, you know, functioning satellites, spacecraft, even the International Space Station. It's a real safety hazard and a major challenge for space exploration.
Wow, okay. I hadn't thought about it like that. Okay, let's come back down to Earth for a minute and talk about something a little bit more personal. This one's for all of you out there who consistently wake up at 3 a.m.
This is a really common problem, actually, and it often boils down to, like, blood sugar crashes and cortisol spikes. You see, when your blood sugar drops too low during the night, your body releases these stress hormones that can actually jolt you awake.
So is it not just about what you eat, like right before bed, but also about maintaining balanced blood sugar throughout the day?
Exactly. And then there's the dawn phenomenon, where your body naturally raises blood sugar in the early morning. For most people, this is fine. But if you have insulin resistance or diabetes, your body can overreact, and this can lead to disrupted sleep.
That makes sense. So instead of reaching for that late night snack, we should be focusing on eating regular balanced meals throughout the day to keep our blood sugar stable.
Precisely. If you find yourself waking up at 3 a.m., try keeping a food journal. Track your meals and just see if there's a correlation with your sleep patterns. Also, a small protein-rich snack before bed can sometimes help stabilize your blood sugar.
All right, listener, let's say you finally conquered those 3 a.m. wake-ups and you're ready for an adventure. Maybe a trip to Las Vegas.
Ooh, fun. But be warned, walking in Vegas can actually be a lot more dangerous than you might think. You know, Nevada has the highest pedestrian fatality rate in crosswalks nationwide.
Seriously? With all the flashing lights and pedestrian bridges, I just assumed it would be safer to walk there.
It's very counterintuitive. Part of the problem is that sidewalks can suddenly disappear, forcing people to walk on busy streets. And then you have distracted tourists and drivers, which creates a really dangerous combination.
So renting a car is probably a safer bet.
That's definitely an option, especially if you plan to explore beyond the Strip. The Deuce, it's a 24-hour double-decker bus system. That's another great way to get around.
Good to know. Now, shifting gears to a more serious topic, we have to talk about a recent food recall that has some people pretty worried.
Millions of pastries, including some Dunkin' products, were pulled from shelves due to potential listeria contamination. Now, listeria is a type of bacteria that can cause severe food poisoning. It's particularly dangerous for pregnant women, older adults, and those with weakened immune systems.
So this recall is a big deal. It makes you wonder, how common are these kinds of contamination issues really? Do you feel confident in the safety of our food supply? It's definitely unsettling.
It is. And what I find particularly concerning is the lack of a public response from Dunkin's parent company or FGF brands, the wholesaler involved. It's as if they're hoping that the issue will quietly disappear. And this really erodes trust and raises questions about their commitment to food safety.
Okay, phew. Let's take a break from the heavy stuff for a second with a heartwarming animal story. This one involves a cat named Pudding, who basically became an internet sensation after rescuing her feline friend, Poppy.
Oh, I saw that video. Poor Poppy got trapped under a cardboard box and Pudding completely freaked out. You could hear her panic meows. She was trying so hard to tear through the box to get to her friend.
The owner said she had flipped the box over the night before to, prevent any accidents.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what caused the whole problem. Thankfully, Pudding's quick thinking saved the day.
It really challenges the notion that animals act solely on instinct, Pudding clearly demonstrated some problem-solving skills there, and she had a deep concern for her friend. It makes you wonder about the depth of their emotions and intelligence.
Totally. Speaking of deep connections, this next story is guaranteed to warm your heart. Imagine meeting someone on a plane, falling head over heels, and getting engaged within weeks.
Wow, it sounds like something out of a movie. What's even more remarkable is that this couple is still happily married 10 years later.
They actually met because he accidentally elbowed her on the plane. He apologized profusely, and then they ended up talking for the rest of the flight.
Oh, that's sweet. It's just such a beautiful example of the power of chance encounters. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected moments can lead to the most extraordinary connections.
Absolutely. Now let's dive into the world of myth-busting. Have you heard the rumor that Mr. Rogers, the beloved host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, was a former military sniper with hidden tattoos?
Oh, yes, that's been circulating for years, but it's completely false. Rogers' life was incredibly well documented. He never served in the military and devoted his career to children's television and promoting peace.
It's amazing how these rumors persist, even when there's clear evidence to the contrary. Why are we so drawn to the idea of hidden depths, especially when it comes to, seemingly wholesome figures like Mr. Rogers?
Well, I think it speaks to our desire to find, complexity in everyone. Rogers' persona was so wholesome and pure that some people may have found it hard to believe it was entirely genuine.
It's we need to believe that everyone has a dark side to, make sense of the world.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end this part of our deep dive on a lighter note. Remember that egg surcharge that Waffle House implemented because of rising egg prices?
Oh, yeah, that caused quite a stir online. Cracker Barrel really seized the opportunity to roast Waffle House on social media, didn't they?
They basically declared they would never charge extra for eggs because, hospitality and all that. It was such a clever dig. It implied Waffle House wasn't as customer-focused.
Well, it was a brilliant marketing move. It highlights the effectiveness of humor and, brand rivalry in capturing public attention.
And, of course, they then launched a double points promotion for their egg dishes, turning a competitor's misstep into a win for themselves.
This whole breakfast battle highlights an interesting point. With egg prices soaring, a simple breakfast is becoming a luxury for many people. And speaking of things that can impact your wallet, it's tax season. You know what that means. Deadlines, forms, and the potential for some, costly mistakes. It's estimated that so many people, they miss out on thousands of dollars in deductions and credits simply because they just don't understand the system.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to leave on the table. I know taxes can be confusing, but what are some of the most common mistakes people make?
Well, one of the biggest pitfalls, especially for self-employed people and business owners, is overlooking eligible expenses. Things like home office deductions, business mileage, even internet costs. These things can add up to significant savings.
So keeping good records is crucial. What about tax credits? Those can directly reduce your tax liability, right?
Absolutely. Credits, like the earned income tax credit or the child tax credit, they can make a huge difference in your refund. The key takeaway here is to be proactive. Plan ahead, keep meticulous records, and don't hesitate to seek professional advice if you need it.
Great advice. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and revisit the world of sports. I heard about this college basketball player who got slapped with a technical foul for, a finger gun celebration.
Oh, yeah. That story sparked quite a debate. On the surface, it does seem a bit excessive. We've all seen players get a little carried away with their, post-basket celebration.
Exactly. But a finger gun, really, is that really worth a technical foul?
Well, the context matters. In this case, it wasn't so much the finger gun itself, but how he used it. Pointing it directly at an opponent's head that crosses the line from playful celebration to something that could be perceived as like taunting or even threatening.
So it's a reminder that even seemingly insignificant actions can have consequences, especially when they're open to interpretation.
Exactly. And, in the heat of the moment, it's understandable why a referee might interpret that gesture as, unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, I understand why the ref made that call, but part of me wonders if we're getting, too sensitive about celebrations in sports. What do you think? Is a finger gun really that big of a deal?
It's a valid question. Perhaps this incident could spark a larger conversation about sportsmanship, the role of emotions in competition, and just the evolving standards of what's considered acceptable behavior.
Yeah. Speaking of acceptable behavior, let's circle back to that heartwarming cat rescue story. Remember Pudding, the feline hero who saved her friend Poppy from the perils of a cardboard box?
Oh, how could I forget? That video was pure internet gold. You could hear Pudding's frantic meows and see her desperately trying to free Poppy.
Yeah.
It really highlights the depth of emotion and intelligence that animals possess.
It's amazing how Pudding sensed the danger and just immediately jumped into action. It really challenges our assumptions about the boundaries of animal intelligence and their capacity for emotional connection.
The owner actually mentioned that she'd flipped the box over the night before to prevent any accidents. Ironically, that's what led to the whole drama.
Oh, wow. It's a classic case of unintended consequences, but thankfully Pudding was there to save the day. It's a heartwarming reminder of the powerful bonds that can exist between animals.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we can learn a lot from our furry friends, about compassion, loyalty, and the importance of looking out for one another.
Okay, let's shift our focus back to human connections and revisit the story of the couple who met on a plane, got engaged within weeks, and are still happily married 10 years later.
Ah, yes. A story that challenges the notion that lasting love can't blossom from a, chance encounter. It's proof that sometimes taking a leap of faith can lead to extraordinary happiness.
I love how they describe their first meeting. He accidentally elbowed her, over-apologized, and then they ended up chatting for the rest of the flight. It's almost like something out of a romantic comedy.
And despite facing some challenges early on, like job loss and health issues, their bond just grew stronger.
That's really inspiring. It shows that love isn't just about the initial spark, but about the commitment to supporting each other through life's ups and downs.
Exactly. It speaks to the resilience of love and the importance of nurturing a relationship even when things get tough. Now, on a more serious note, let's revisit the food safety issue.
Right. That pastry recall was definitely unsettling. Millions of pastries, including those from Dunkin', were pulled off the shelves due to potential listeria contamination.
Yeah, the fact that this involved a major brand like Dunkin' really underscores the importance of vigilance and transparency when it comes to food safety.
And yet, we haven't really heard much from Dunkin' or FGF brands, the wholesaler responsible for the contaminated products. It feels like they're trying to, sweep the issue under the rug.
This lack of transparency is a real problem. It erodes consumer trust, and it makes you wonder about their commitment to addressing the issue.
It's a reminder that as consumers, we have the right to demand better from the companies we support. Speaking of demanding better, let's revisit the breakfast battle between Cracker Barrel and Waffle House.
Ah, yes, the great egg surcharge showdown. It was a fascinating example of brand rivalry playing out in the public arena. It really showed the power of a well-timed marketing campaign and a bit of humor.
Cracker Barrel was so clever in how they capitalized on Waffle House's egg surcharge announcement. Their message was so simple yet effective. We would never charge extra for eggs, hospitality and all that. It was such a subtle jab, but it resonated with a lot of people.
They essentially positioned themselves as the more customer-friendly option. It was a savvy move that generated a lot of positive attention and likely won them some new customers.
And of course, they rolled out a double points promotion for their egg dishes, turning a competitor's misstep into a win for their brand.
It's a reminder that in the world of business, agility, and, a keen sense of public sentiment can be powerful tools.
Okay, let's shift gears from breakfast battles to something a bit more thought-provoking. We already debunked the myth about Mr. Rogers being a former military sniper, but there's another layer to this story that I find really interesting.
You're referring to the psychological factors that contribute to the persistence of such myths. Right?
Exactly. Why are we so drawn to these stories, even when they're demonstrably false? What is it about hidden depths and secret pasts that fascinates us?
I think it speaks to our desire to find complexity in everyone. You know, Roger's persona was so wholesome and pure that some people may have found it hard to believe it was entirely genuine.
Right. The myth of like the ex-sniper with hidden tattoos, it provided a sense of balance, like a way to reconcile his outward gentleness with a more rugged, maybe even dangerous past.
It's almost as if we need to believe that everyone has a dark side to make the world feel more, predictable or understandable. But it's important to remember that these narratives, while entertaining, can sometimes distract from the real story.
And in the case of Mr. Rogers, the real story is one of extraordinary kindness, empathy, and dedication to children's well-being. Speaking of heartwarming stories, it's amazing how these seemingly random stories from the internet can spark such profound reflections on life, and love and the world around us.
Absolutely. It's like we've woven together this tapestry of human experience, touching on, everything from the mundane to the extraordinary.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive viral trends: space junk, sleep science, food safety, heartwarming animal tales, whirlwind romances, breakfast battles, tax tips, even the psychology of urban legends. Phew, it's been quite a ride.
And through it all, we've glimpsed the anxieties and aspirations and, just the sheer resilience of the human spirit. I mean, we've seen how individual actions, no matter how small, can ripple outward and create these unexpected connections.
Exactly, like that TikToker who sparked a nationwide debate about a Waffle House menu item.
Yeah.
Or that cat, who became an internet sensation for rescuing her friend from a cardboard box.
Speaking of that heroic cat, Pudding, it turns out her instincts extend beyond, rescuing her feline companions. Her owner actually suffers from a medical condition that causes her to, occasionally faint.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
It is, but here's the incredible part. Pudding has learned to sense when her owner is about to faint. She'll run to her owner's side and meow really loudly, alerting other family members who can then, help.
That's amazing. It's like she's a furry guardian angel. It really makes you wonder about the depth of the bond between humans and animals.
It's a reminder that animals can be incredibly intuitive and empathetic. They pick up on these subtle cues that we might not even be aware of. This story really challenges our assumptions about the boundaries of animal intelligence and their capacity for emotional connection.
Yeah, it's both heartwarming and humbling. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious what resonated most with you.
Yeah. What surprised you? What sparked your curiosity? What will you take away from these stories and apply to your own life?
Maybe you were inspired by the couple who found love at first flight. Or perhaps you're still chuckling over Cracker Barrel's, clever roast of Waffle House.
Or maybe, like me, you're in awe of Pudding's, heroic actions, both in rescuing her friend and in looking out for her owner.
Whatever it may be, we hope this deep dive has left you with a renewed sense of wonder and a deeper appreciation for the extraordinary connections that bind us all, whether, human or animal, virtual or real.
Because at the end of the day, that's what the deep dive is all about. Igniting your curiosity, expanding your understanding of the world, and empowering you to connect the dots in your own unique way.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep sharing your insights with the world. Because the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is still to discover.
And on that note, we bid you farewell, intrepid listeners. Until next time, happy diving!